My upgrades are Invincible, Chapter 67, Fan Fiction, by Azazyel. The Denatus. The Meeting of the Gods. The room that which was filled with the sounds of childish bickering, and the smell of centuries of tears of humiliation seeping into its surfaces. During this Denatus, more divines than usual showed up due to interest in hearing drama first-hand with the major upheavals that had been happening as of late with the Zeus and Hera Familia planning on going on the 3 quests in the next couple of years. To say nothing of the huge drama that occurred with Zeus's adventurers kicking the hornet's nest that was the crafting Familias. Taking a step back. The entire Denatus was actually separated this time not by pantheons and friendships between the divines, but instead by occupation, as the crafting Familiases and their closer friends kept to one half of the room while the neutral and more adventure-focused Familias took the other half. This Denatus was left to the goddess Freya to do the announcements and act as the speaker as the neutral third party. With how tense the room was, and her being the only goddess really with the ability to keep the tension-filled room even somewhat orderly. Even if her method of keeping the room orderly was to use her charm and beauty to mentally smack down any arguments that came up. Freya, clad in a tight-fitting silver dress with gold filigree across its form, gave a winning smile as she spoke at a higher volume to break through the babbling gods and goddesses. Alright, it's time to begin with the unpleasant topics first before we get to the fun part of voting for nicknames for the children who leveled up. The beautiful Norse goddess gave the silent gods and goddesses of the crafting Familia block that included the likes of Goibniu, Hephaestus, Ta, and even gods who were known for being an asshole, like Dien Chek T, were standing in solidarity with the rest of the crafting Familias. Now, due to another higher-leveled adventure from outside of Ororio causing an issue of major theft at Dien Sek's Familia, several of our adventurers for some reason acquired off, or even one could say, poison potions that fell into their hands that they bought from elsewhere. So Dien Sect, if per se someone was repeatedly stealing your potions, I am going to have to ask you to stop creating poison potions and elixirs, as they are arriving with your seals in stores that you yourself have sponsored to sell your potions and elixirs. The older god gave a snort before looking over at Zeus and saying spitefully, "Complete donkey shit. Fucking adventures from outside Ororio, my ass. Everyone knows it's that brat Maxim being petty after I shut his ass down after he threatened my airmaid." Dien Sect pointed a finger directly at Hera instead, making her twitch as he said in amusement. And I can't say enough how utterly hilarious it is that the moment some miracle happens that cures that materia girl and your monster of talent in Althea has hope. That materia drinks a nutrient healing potion that was stolen from one of those bad batches, huh? The richest, if not the strongest, Familia and your executives bought off-brand stolen goods from a fake shop, huh? Hera's face became as of stone as she glared at Dien Sect and asked frankly, "Dien, do you want a little wargame? I was thinking that my Familia could use a few healers, and the rest could be dumped outside of Dash." But before Hera could continue her threat, Freya tittered loudly with her throwing her hair back seductively, mentally stunned many of the gods and goddesses in the room at the sight, but not all. But the motion was done to silence the coming argument as Freya spoke. "The feud is over. My dear Otter already caught the thief, and he has been put to the sword after I questioned him and found out that he was a level 4 from the Lamish to Familia. Now this topic is over. As we move on to the next subject, the city of Melon has stepped up its slave trade, and Ororio itself has banned the slave trade. Will we sanction or make any moves to punish the city?" Freya asked. Even as she asked that, Freya was inwardly slightly nervous, as she had invested a good bit of resources into helping Jake and his little wonderful Palum lover escape from Ororio to Melon. She would be most wroth if her efforts and her future plans for such an interesting soul were to be thrown into the winds. The gods and goddesses discussed quietly whether they should do anything, and finally, one of the gods said more loudly, "Yeah, we should do something. When I take my cute little children down to the beach, I don't want them to see a bunch of other mortals in chains, crying and looking all dead inside. We should just kill off the Plutus Familia's captain. She is a complete sociopath who eats people, even." Another voice, this one female, piped up with a small frown. "It would be better if we just destroyed the flesh auction of the 5 main Familias in Melon, honestly. Even if Orario takes a hit to the taxes we are able to collect from Melon. A large number of gods and goddesses grimaced, hearing that as many of them had fingers in Melon's city of gold and cutting a piece out of their pie would be akin to taking a piece of their flesh, with another god saying with a frown. Wait, now let's not be too hasty, those slaves are also being taken from all over the world, we can't control where they come from, especially with how Libertas is still being held by Evolus, who is being used to enslave people's will. To which Hera sniffed and said with a cold smile. Well, it's a fortuitous event that my darling sword saintess and the mountain breaker is already in Melon having herself a vacation. I am sure that she would be willing to cut down the chaff and keep it from spilling out of control. Freya's heart stilled, and she held in a mental scream at hearing the damned sword saintess was going to Melon. As that meant that she would be able to use her poor imitation of a death god's soul sight to pick out Jake's damned soul while within Orario. But as though hearing Freya's thoughts, Hephaestus gave a grin and called out. Well, with that all out of the way, I have a major announcement to make as the files are already going to prove it. My darling child, Jake Barris has broken the level 1 rank-up record with a speed run time of only a grand total of 3 weeks. And Freya could all but see Zeus and Hera's faces twist in utter surprise, especially that bitch Hera's face twitching as she knew the so-called Queen of the Gods wanted to twist Jake into serving her Familia's interests. And maybe even break her oath and invite him to join her Familia altogether.